How do we overcome trauma and come to a place of full responsibility for ourselves and growth? How do we apply that in our marriage, in our relationships, so that we continue to up-level our lives? Well, I brought my friend Heidi on today to talk with us about her story, how she went from a place of brokenness and into these various beautiful layers of healing, and how she and her husband came alongside each other to amplify this, how their relationship has deepened, how she has put her attention on her marriage and transformed what she thought was a good marriage into an even better and a great and wonderful one. I can't wait to share Heidi's story with you. Let's bring Heidi on. Ladies, I am so honored and delighted to have one of my friends, Heidi Fecht, on to talk today about marriage. I think one of the best ways that we learn anything is by hearing each other's stories. And Heidi has so graciously come on to talk about what the journey of marriage and their relationship, the dynamics of it, how it's changed over the years, and what have been some of the big ahas that have shifted things and made life richer, made their connection smoother and deeper. And those are the kind of stories that we need to hear more of. So Heidi is an actress in Los Angeles. She has had quite a few amazing bits on film and television, and so check her out on IMDb. And I will have her link in the show notes as well. She is also a mother, a wife, and just an incredible creative spirit. She is very much in touch with energy, and I absolutely love how she lives a life in so much lightness and beauty and thoughtfulness. And with that, I just couldn't ask anyone better to come on and talk about kind of the heartbeat of our connections as a couple together, someone with that kind of energy. So, Heidi, thank you so much for being here with me.
Oh, thank you. That was a beautiful introduction, and I'm glowing in all the lovely things you had to say.
Mm, Wow. So, we have a couple things in common besides being married and
Hmm.
having children. You've also done a little, we're a big homeschooling family, and you have had a season of that as well, which is, I think, so cool, super cool. And then also being creative people. We've also done some inner work with one similar practitioner. And I'm excited to, through our story, get to talk about her work and what that looked like inside of us and what that made that transformation. But first of all, how did you and your husband Nick meet?
We were both young, 23 at the time, met in an acting class in Chicago. He saw me. I came to audit the class and was sitting apparently with my legs crossed, shaking my bottom leg, eating an apple in between the interview that the teacher had me do to join the class and the class joining. So he arrived and looked at me and said, I can marry that girl without knowing me at all. And, um, and we continued just to be friends for the first couple months as we got to know each other and
As he
um,
reeled you in?
as he reeled me in, and I was completely unaware. But yeah, so he was more seasoned as an actor in Chicago and was working quite a bit, and so he would give advice over the phone, and we met, I guess, in class, I think in March, and we went on our first date in May. We went on a bike ride. He took me out to the suburbs where he lived. I had been living in the city without a car, just my bike, and went out to the suburbs where there was all this beautiful greenery and space and not a city. And our first date was a bike ride, even though I didn't know it was a date at that time. We were just going as friends. And that was May, and we were, oh God, this is I'm losing track of all the, we were engaged by October. So we fell in love over the summer and were officially engaged by October and married the following year. So we were
Oh,
24. Yeah. And so we just celebrated well, we're coming up on 32 years marriage, 33 years together.
what? Wow, what a journey. And
Yeah.
how, but I know this is like a subtopic, but are you from Chicago? Like
No, no,
where are you from?
I'm from Colorado and I went to school in Columbia, Missouri, Stevens College for acting. And then after doing some dinner theater and musical theater in Colorado, moved to Chicago where, there was more of a scene. And we met there. And I had just gotten over a really devastating breakup of 4 years prior to meeting Nick and thinking, oh, I'm gonna be on the market for a while. I'm gonna need to know someone for at least 4 years before you get married and all those things. And yeah, it was finally starting to enjoy dating when I met Nick.
And then it just stole you away from all that.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we met and I fell in the river that day when with on my bike and he pulled me out and I met his family later that evening, all wet and my clothes went in the dryer and
Make yourself at home.
yes, yeah. So yeah, and then he brought me back to that spot where I fell in and proposed in October. So
Oh,
yeah, so it
so
was very quick. And, I would say that we grew together instead of apart because when you get married that young, you don't know who you are, you know? And thankfully, we grew together. I think it was by the time I was 30 that I started going inward more and like, what's wrong with me? Why, I started wanting therapy or self-help books, if, if you would. Um, and my husband being from a very traditional Greek family where, both his parents were fresh off the boat, they weren't. The idea of going to a therapist was like, what? And just even for myself, he's like, why are you going to tell somebody your problems? And I wasn't even wanting to go to a therapist, but I'd heard about EMDR, which is a rapid eye movement technique that helps you through trauma. And my friend had told me about it and it just intrigued me. So that was my first step into self-discovery and letting go of energy and stuck patterns.
tell us a little bit about EMDR because I know that Kim Anami had recommended it for women that had gone through like severe sexual trauma and how to heal
Mhm.
from that. And it was something that was fascinating to me. Since you have been through it, what was it like?
It's very simple. You don't have to really, um, the therapist has you, basically, I'll go back. When we dream, our eyes kind of go back and forth. So our, our brain is processing left, right, left, right, left, right. EMDR works in that you're either given headphones with sound in them, and it has music, but then there's sort of like a boom, 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 boom on left, right. Or you could watch my therapist had that, and she also had a long, like rectangular set of little lights, and the lights would go left and the lights would go right. They would light up, and you would just follow them while you were talking. So you start to talk a lot of what was traumatic. I guess I had feelings that I had n no memory of. It was just feeling, and I realized it was some sort of anxiousness but I didn't have anything to equate it to. So she, would talk about, well, let's just go into when you were in utero, when you were one or when you were two, just think of that situation and feel what you feel. I think a lot of mine was in utero because my mother was hospitalized and had shock treatment while she was pregnant with me. My mother had a lot of severe depression and anxiety through her younger years and then also later in life. But so I think a lot of my trauma was just from the beginning, you know, and there wasn't a name for it. So that was a huge tool. And, kudos for Nick, who let me go do that. Not that I was going to do it regardless, but he finally came on board. And, but from being from such a traditional lifestyle of, I don't want to say lifestyle, but upbringing
Yeah.
of, didn't know the first thing about therapists, but he didn't. Um, and so that was my beginning. And then my sister, and we had a beautiful relationship. We've always had a beautiful relationship. We fell in love and just enjoyed each other so much. And I think perhaps because I saw how dysfunctional my own mother was, I thought, I don't want to do this to to a child. And so I really wanted to work on myself. And I was just enjoying us so much, and he was enjoying us so much that we kept living and loving our life and going deeper. And I was always the one that sort of set the pace, He was pretty he's always been very grounded in who he is and all that, and does a lot of internal work on his own. But so yeah, I've always kind of pushed and tried to figure things out. And I would say that, in the beginning of our relationship and for a lot of it, maybe around the time I finally decided to do the EMDRs, he was always rescuing me. I was the victim and I needed support, or I was crying about this or that, and he was the strong one. And I think it got to him, and I realized it was getting to him, and I needed to be strong for myself and figure things out on my own. So that's how that happened. And then my sister,
So
go
stop
ahead.
there.
Mhm.
So did that breed any resentment as you were, did Nick, you said that he kind of was reaching a full point of like, I'm always rescuing Heidi, or was it that you just recognized the pattern finally?
I think both.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't do this for you. You've got to figure this out. He was strong enough to realize he was being the rescuer.
And so did you see your own pattern being a reflection of your mother's? Was she also kind of doing this the same thing? Because it
Victim,
sounded
yeah.
like, yeah,
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
absolutely. That was my the biggest takeaway I got from my mother, or not takeaway, but that was the biggest pattern I took from
Yeah,
her.
the lesson learned of like, wow, okay,
Mhm.
let's not keep being the victim here.
Right.
Yeah, and that's not, you're not unique in that. But
No.
I think it's a lot easier for us women to play that damsel in distress, that role of, oh, I just can't. I'm not strong enough and someone help me. And it gives men a job. So that's why
Yes.
it's very intriguing, or like it sucks a guy in because like, oh, I can solve that. But what happens when you're with a woman who you never solve anything? You get to one mountain peak and there's another mountain. There's just endless. It's
Hmm.
just a whole mountain range for the
Oh,
rest of their
yeah.
lives. It gets exhausting for both of you. And yeah, so that's beautiful that you were able to recognize as a couple to say like, hey, let's change something. And it sounds like both of you have always been growth oriented. I love that you said that you seem to set the pace. I feel that that really echoed with me in Brian and our relationship, where he, similar to Nick, he's very grounded about who he is. He's very confident, he's very sure. And it's hilarious because I'll come to him with issues and say, oh, but this person, and then now I feel this way about it. And I'm like, well, don't let him make you feel that way. Stop feeling that way. Like, easy for you to say you're so confident, but it
Right.
hurt my feelings. Like, well, don't let it hurt your feelings. So, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
They
That
sound very similar. Oh,
But I want to circle back to the EMDR just to be
yeah.
clear because we touched on it. But what is like, what does EMD, because there's so many different treatments, different
Hmm.
ways to go about healing. And that one is so fast. What did it do by having your eyes move back and forth as you talked
So,
through those time periods?
yeah, time periods, and not, I didn't actually specifically have memory, so we would have to go with the feeling. And just by watching the lights or listening to the boom, boom, boom. And she even told me if I was home alone and some panic was coming up, I could cross my hands and just tap. That just doing that makes your brain shift through the feeling. So the feeling got stuck. And as you know, what I learned later in energy medicine school is something happens when we're super little or in utero or wherever, and it happens and you contract. And then something else happens, and then it gets covered over, and something else happens that's similar that triggers that same old wound, but it's so buried and things get layered and layered and layered on top of it. So we're an onion, right? But we all have this original wound that happened to us at some point, usually very early on. And so, oh, I don't even know where I was going with this. What did I say
So,
prior to that?
it was the feeling about you
Oh, yeah.
follow the
So the
feeling.
feeling was like probably something very young, and obviously my originating trigger could, you know, this is another conversation, but possibly there are, other lives that we've had or memory of our ancestors that we're holding in our body. So
Mhm.
sometimes it's not even our own,
Ours.
right?
Yeah.
It could be whether, a past life of our own or just the genetic memory of our ancestors. So anyway, it was very strong. And so by just being with the feeling and watching the lights and hearing the sound and feeling the feelings of tapping my shoulders left, right, with arms have to be crossed. It moves you through the feeling.
So
I
that
have
you
so
don't
it
contract and stay there in that like, oh, we
you're
hit that.
actually
Everybody freeze. So
right,
it
you're moving through the freeze. So I guess it's a lot like somatic experience. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's
tell
like,
us all.
oh, well, I'm not an expert on that either, but um, basically either touching your own skin and breathing into what's there helps it move because you're recognizing or giving um, awareness to something that's pretty buried, right? So even that can move energy in your body. I am a very empathic and sensitive soul, so I do feel a lot. And I think sometimes people can, if they're not as, I think everybody's sensitive, but some people have bigger walls built up so
Mhm.
they don't feel that and they isolate from it, or they don't have as much trauma, maybe. I don't know. Um, so anyway, that was my first experience and just learned a lot of, I think I went to the library or Barnes and Noble and saw all those, writing to yourself as if you were your own little girl, you're writing to your inner child. And I did some work with writing with my dominant hand, asking questions and answering with the left hand, which was the inner child, and that's all messy. And you do get this voice coming back to you. So I did a lot of those types of things in around the time I was 30 and or I think even before I was 30. But yeah, it was before I was 30 because when I was 30, then I went to visit my sister in Ocracoke, North Carolina, in this beautiful setting. They had just had a huge hurricane, so nobody was on the island, and it was just stunning. But we had the island to ourselves basically, but she had had a surfboard injury earlier in the summer there and had just this huge energetic experience of not being able to read or concentrate, but being able to see so much of the unseen world and thinking she was going crazy, probably. So she had some sessions with a healer there that did Reiki work on her, and it completely shifted her concussion and opened her up to a lot more. And when I went there for my 30th birthday, I had been suffering since college, and I graduated college at 20. So 10 years I had been suffering with TMJ really badly
Mm.
and used to take, I think, 6 Advil at a time, or no, I can't remember. It was at a
Oh my
time
gosh.
or throughout the day. I think I took the max, however much I could, but I was in so much pain. And she did a Reiki session on me without being inducted as a Reiki person. She just had this pamphlet that told her to hold spaces on my forehead, near my ears, my jaw, my throat, I think, And just by following a pamphlet and doing these things, it moved the energy of what I'd been holding in my jaw for 10 years, and I never had an issue again with TMJ. So that was my first experience with energy medicine then. And it was just, I think, because there are attunements, I think it's called, when you become a Reiki person, that you're given the gift of the Reiki. But I think if someone has, I think we all have the ability to heal. Perhaps we're using our own energy. I don't know, or we're bringing something in. But if you have the love and the intent, you can hold space for someone. And if they're willing, I think things move. So, or I know things move. So that changed my life to a big degree. And then from there, she gifted me a session when she moved to California with her roommate. She was living with a woman who was an energy medicine practitioner. And so my first experience there was completely um, life changing. And it just made me dive deeper and deeper, into the
Right,
rabbit
you
hole.
can't say life changing and then just move forward from there. Let's talk about how it was life changing. I know, like, I want to talk about marriage. Let's talk about all
Okay,
your
here we're.
healing, doing all the work inside. Hey, I'm fine with that. Like, because this is the story of our growth as women. Thank you for, yes, keep going.
Well, okay, so I guess prior to that, she did become certified as a Reiki person, then gave me a Reiki session, and I had so much moving through my body and saw colors and just like I
During the
felt so
session?
released. Yeah, during her
Okay.
set, during Christina's session, but she definitely has a gift of healing touch. Whether the first time she did it was her own, and then later she had more tools. I don't know, but
Yeah.
she's very gifted, and she continues to do cranial sacral and sometimes when she feels called to Reiki. Um, but so yes, I had this session with a woman in San Diego who was just incredible, and um, yeah, it just brought up whether it's past life or ancestral lives in my body that were being activated because I'm an actress and I feel so much my body would act out things. So it would act out things that haven't happened in my life because I would be dead if it happened, like
So were
there
you holding pain in your body? Like, what does that mean? Your body was acting out
well, for
these
instance,
situations.
like one situation uh when I was on Lorraine's table in San Diego. I hope your audience is open
No,
to
no, no. We've
this.
we've gone we've gone all
Way
sorts of
beyond.
places. So yes, I know who you are, and I'm welcoming all of you. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so at one point, I knew there were times in retrospect, I believe now I was just always acting out victim patterns. So whether my
Mm,
body was trying to communicate that to me by the way it was acting things out, or whether these were memories of my ancestors, or perhaps a different life, if
yeah.
if there is such thing as reincarnation, and our souls, continue to come into experience here in the world. Um, so at one point I knew I got up off her table and I could feel myself being stabbed. I went down to the ground. There was another point in a session where I was being hung, like just literally hung. And then to confirm this later, my sister did a cranial sacral session on me, and she went and put her hands in my ears, and all of a sudden she felt I don't know what the bone is, but I don't know if it's a bone, it's a butterfly shape, something in
Yeah.
between I don't know what it's called because I don't know
Hmm.
um, the anatomy or whatever's in there. And she felt that shift, and she and I both knew that that was like processing the rest of that hanging,
Mm.
so and that was, fairly close, like maybe a couple months together. We both got chills. She got chills. I wasn't telling her what I was experiencing. She got chills, was freaking out because she was new to energy medicine and cranial sacral. So my body, and with another practitioner, her holding space for me just in my kitchen once, uh, you know, I felt like I was thrown up against the wall, and my mind went to probably raped
Yeah.
and kind of melted to the ground and felt lifeless. So it's hard to know, like, how do we really know? But I think I was stuck in such a victim pattern that maybe this was the way of my body telling me, get out of being a victim in your life right now. You're
Yeah.
still being a victim. And, maybe I wasn't, that's what I see in retrospect. But in the
Yeah.
meantime, I went to my the practitioner was she was a teacher with another medicine practitioner up in Santa Cruz, and they were starting their second year program. And so she invited Nick and I, because Nick finally did have a session with her, to go and experience like a 4-day weekend of what they would be covering in the 2-year program. And so we both went and we both thought it was amazing. I, of course, loved it more than he did. He was like, oh, this is cool, but he didn't feel like he needed to do it. And the TAs that were there that had just graduated from the 2-year program before said, oh, no, no, you both need to do this together, or you will not be together when the 2 years is up, because Heidi will continue to grow and evolve, and you won't be caught up with, you won't be doing that together. So if you want to keep your marriage together, which at this point we'd been married 16 years or 15 years, you need to do this together. So he did.
So he didn't feel like they were just trying to sell him.
No, no,
Yeah.
he
He
realized. I mean, I was doing all sorts of things like reading Eckhart Tolle, and I think at that point he had a dream like that I was moving beyond him and he needed to keep up, just in
Mm.
evolving and coming to terms with your shit. Um, anyway, so yes, we did that, and then during the energy medicine, during I guess the first year, I got pregnant, and what a beautiful way to conceive and have the
All that
whole,
energy you two were
yeah,
creating and being in, and then you made Aiden in that. That is amazing.
yeah, yeah, no, and it was so beautiful because everybody was sensitive to energy, they could connect in with him, and I remember, especially down Raina, my main teacher, she had tears running down her face the first time she connected to the baby's energy, because she's like, he's just from such a pure space, which is where we all are from until we come here and forget a lot of that, right? So yeah, so that was really beautiful.
So I
And
want to I want to go back to how Nick, with his very staunch Greek upbringing, very traditional, and now he's in energy school, and how he stopped. Well, it sounds like so he in the because it's a journey as a
Mhm.
couple, and for him getting to the point of seeing Heidi, I can't keep doing this for you. You have to start dealing with your own stuff. You're like, oh my gosh, I have stuff to deal with, and I
Mhm.
don't want to be stuck like my mother, and I want to deal with these things. And then him seeing like, you know what, her getting help was actually helpful. So maybe I'm not feeling so anti therapy or anti-help. And I can see that this is actually helping my wife. And it sounded like he was opening more. What was that journey like for him? Did he just keep as you? Because again, like you said, you were kind of setting the pace for,
Mhm.
and I think that's what we as women pretty much do. Now, I know there are some women, I don't understand them because I'm not one of those types that they kind of like everything to be the same and whatnot. And they might be married to a man who he's a grower and he wants, I went there, but he wants to keep evolving and building and becoming more. And they, as a woman, she might be wanting things to stay the same. But I think naturally, because we have such creative spirits, not that men don't, but like who our whole essence as females, is more growth oriented, or maybe it's because we aren't so analytical that we're just
Mm,
open to more.
yeah,
But I think that it makes sense that we kind of lead our men forward in those things. Not that like, come here, you're coming with me, and like you've got him by a rope, but of let me do it for me and be a witness. Let me
yeah.
be the lighthouse and see if that's something you want to join me on. I know that's very much of what we've been through, especially with, we'll talk later about Kim Anami's work. And that
Mm,
was very much the thing. I had to start doing the work for him to start going, huh, you know, there's something
right,
to this.
right, right. Yeah, I think Nick did start seeing and me seeing my experience or me sharing my experience and seeing the growth in me made him finally open to, okay, well, I'll go travel down to San Diego and have a session with this Lorraine person. And
What was that like for him? What was that
well, it
like?
was completely different than any session I had had because I tended to just keep going back into another victim story anytime I was on her table. It was ridiculous. His first session, he was channeling. He
What? Did that freak him out?
I think it did at first, and she grounded him and kind of brought in an animal energy to help center him, and then he really expanded and saw a lot, and experienced a lot, and a lot of his own remembering his a lot of his own power. Um, so he had a lot of experience as a child that his parents and his older brother all told him was his imagination. So he shut it down as he got older because he thought it was his imagination. And a lot of times it was scary things and things that would try to get his attention. So he let that go. And it wasn't until he went and had the session with Lorraine where then he was back open. He was like, oh, okay, so this was real. This is real to be able to see other dimensions. And then he got a little confused because he came home and all of a sudden these spirits and beings are showing up and he had to say no, 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 baby steps. I still live on earth and my he learned to tell them you're attracted to my light. Look inside, find your light, and go back to where you belong.
Hmm.
So it's like I can't be their traffic cop. I'll help them sometimes, but I'm here on Earth. I'm not here to just direct traffic for
Right.
go back to your light for all these other beings. So, I have a job on Earth too, too, and I'm a creative being. I have dreams of my own, not just to do this. So he did learn to, say no and shut it down when he needed to, or mostly it's shut down and he opens up when he wants to, or that type of thing. But yeah, he in the beginning he had a lot of energies that would just follow him home. And once I remember, he worked at night, and so he had, he's like he's driving home, and all of a sudden there's an older man because these energies just they create themselves in what will be comfortable to you. So to him, it appeared as an older black gentleman, just cozy as can be, sitting in his back seat and talking to him. And yeah, so he would have these energies follow him home. And at one point, my cat, it was early in the morning, and he was home showering, and the cat started freaking out. And the cat was deaf, but she was seeing something, or I'm sorry, he was Pip. And I just knew it. I was like, I tapped into it. I'm like, I could feel it. I'm like, Nick, tell your visitors they stay outside. They're not allowed to come in the house. We got to set a boundary. So we both learned about boundaries and, needing to do that. So at any rate, his experience was very different from mine. And he in a lot of our sessions up at Luminous Body, which is the name of the energy medicine school at the time, he was a big space holder and would sweat and bring in information when people were asking. And I was still processing through victim. Didn't quite get there yet, that I needed to let go and stop. you know. I just thought, oh, I have another life I have to process. Oh, or another
Oh.
ancestor thing. And it's like, this is a bottomless pit. You could go on for eons.
So how did you stop that?
I think I finally made the recognition when I had an energy session. Like, if I am going through this victimization again of a wound that happened to me when I was super young, yes, maybe I'm processing another layer of it, but at the same time, where am I being a victim in my life right now?
Hmm.
So that's kind of kept, not that I'm not continually growing, but that's kept me out of the when I do have an energy session of being victimized again, right? So
Mm.
to me, that's made the most sense. And he's always tried to lead me there. I'm like, Heidi, where are you being a victim now in your current
Ah.
life? What are you, you know?
Now, from you had mentioned before that was something that was that kind of victimy belief was something that was maybe on your maternal side as well. Do you think that that had you were maybe processing your mother's or like you were saying ancestral, like seems like she was really deep in it and you had were passed on to like you're carrying the
Processed,
burdens.
yeah,
Hmm.
processing for her, and
Yeah.
processing probably obviously my own things that happened,
Yeah.
but yes, definitely processing for her, whether it was a soul agreement or just something I learned from an early age because she was depressed and hospitalized off and on the first year of my life, and then just always having to be a caretaker for her as yeah, as a young being. So I I know at one point in school too, because a lot of times I was the one, they called it rolling. Like everybody would hold space and then something would come up from the group, the collective group. But a lot of times I was the person that it's up, she's starting to roll, which means she's starting to process, it's coming out. And then somebody else would too. But I know at one point my teachers said, because you have a boundary issue, you process things for the whole room. So I was always
Mm.
taking on things that weren't mine. And that was a
Oh.
learned pattern too as a child, is just, that's all I knew was trying to heal and help and pull people's energy so everybody else felt better. But I felt like shit.
So you probably listened to it too because you introduced me to Moss,
Yeah.
and he was talking about Mother's Day yesterday. Did you listen to
Yes.
that one?
Wasn't
Okay.
that
And when
great?
he said, and tell everybody how to find him.
Oh, Masadi, I think he's under Masadi.com or XI. Oh gosh. We'll
Right.
put it in the show
I'll
notes.
link it. I'll link it in the
Yeah,
show
yeah, I
notes.
could look it
But
up right now. But
yeah.
yeah, Masadi.com or Massajati.com.
Hmm. Okay, so he was talking about the role of mother is your job is to care, but not to carry.
Carrie, right.
And
That's
that was
brilliant.
huge because we feel as women, as mothers, that our job well, we're supposed to take the burden on and we're holding everybody's burdens. And then we're like, oh, I feel terrible. I feel like crap because I'm doing it all. And like nobody asked you to, or if they did, that's not your spot. But I
Right.
love the idea of that we can care for me, the immediate thing I thought about was my 18-year-old son who has a job, but I still worry about did his laundry get done? Has he written his time for like on the schedule on the family calendar so that like is do we need to give him a ride? Do I need to do all these things to keep him from being responsible?
Instead of
So
letting him fail.
yeah, I am carrying his responsibilities for
Right.
being an individual as
Right.
opposed to care like, oh, I hope he figures that out. Like he's got all the tools. It is up to him. This is the perfect time for him to learn these lessons. There we go. And that's not to say like I have much younger children. It's not to say like, well, I know it's going to be storming when we go out somewhere. I hope they brought a change of clothes. Like, no, that's not it. But there's a difference,
Right.
and I think we
Yeah.
can use
No,
our big
yeah.
brains and figure that out.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, so you learn that boundaries is a huge thing. I think especially as I don't know if it's gender specific for the most part, but with that role as women taking on. Like, excuse me, let me take the eraser. You don't have boundaries. You may have thought you were born with boundaries as an individual, but that's not true. Your job is to be whatever everyone needs you to be.
And we do that. We adapt. Yeah.
Hmm.
No,
And
that's absolutely
that's what makes us such, as a great actress is that you're like, what do you need me to be? Oh, I'm going to be that. I'm going to be that perfectly. That is me. Like now I'm succeeding in life because I'm exactly what you want or you need. And I think that messes up a lot of people in relationship because I meet you, I go on a date, I see like, oh, you like this aspect. Oh, if I'm this way. And so we start to pivot and we start to become this character in a way
right.
like, okay,
We're
that
not
character
authentic.
nails it with this person, so I'm going to
Mhm.
keep that up. And then we go and have tea with our other friend and we meet up with him like, oh yeah, she needs this dynamic. And so I'm going to shift and I'm going to be the chameleon and do this and whatnot. And, it's all praise to be like, oh, she's so adaptable. She can like do all the like, but she doesn't have any boundaries.
Right.
And then that it's like we're water. And if we don't have a container for us with hard, boundaries, then we're just everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. And I will plug him again, Masajani, because his work has been really helpful in helping me learn my boundary and where I end. I tried to learn that at school, but I think because my teachers they didn't have the exact um, constitution that I do as an empath, that they couldn't, even though they tried to teach me, I didn't understand,
Mm.
so yeah, I would suggest everybody listen to, especially the Mother's Day Masadi's Sunday beautiful, I guess, what do you call it?
Message talk that he has
Message,
on YouTube.
meta
Yeah.
healing. Yeah, it was very grounding, and it's frequency work. So it does work on all of us as we just listen to it, even in the background. But yeah, that's, whew, yeah.
Let's move into, I want to touch on some of Kim's work a little
Yeah.
bit as we talk about like one of the dynamics for our relationship romantically is also our sexual relationship. With that, we something that I really love about both Heidi and I took Kim Anami's, it's like Kim Masadi, that's not it. Kim Anami's vaginal kung fu course.
Yeah.
And we didn't know each other at the time, but we may have taken the course at the exact same time. So it is a
Yes.
small world after all, because here I am in Iowa and there's Heidi in Los Angeles. So, and
Meeting
we
years later.
yeah, 3 years later, and
Yeah.
and we're friends now,
Yeah.
and through someone else, and anyway, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But with Kim's work, that was really eye-opening. It shifted a whole bunch in my relationship to myself, which
Mm.
then shifted so much in our marriage. And I would love to talk about what drew you to taking. Why did you take vaginal kung fu?
You know what? I had two younger friends, actors friends that I was working with on a project, and they were both enrolled in it. It was about to start. I think they had been listening to her work. I had never heard her work at all, and they were like, "Queen, you've got to take this
Good.
workshop. You're so powerful. You need to own more of your power, and you need to take this workshop with us." I don't think I'd even listened to Kim Anami. I had no idea what I was getting into. But it was a great experience, and very, yeah, so many wonderful tools that she teaches, but mostly about owning your sexual power, which, you know, that might, I can do that perhaps in the bedroom a little bit, but just in life, right?
Hmm.
Is what she's calling us out to do. And I'd done so much of the energetic work, but to actually delve in and learn to, I think as women, we're just shamed about our bodies. And if you've had any sexual abuse experience, you don't think to look at yourself, or yeah, to caress your breasts, or these things were taught through Kim's work, and I, that was a whole new world to me. Even though I had a very satisfying sexual relationship with my husband, it just brought things to a new level. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I know for me that when I came across her when I was looking up, are you allowed to give birth at home with no one else there? And I ran into her interview with Emily Saldea of the Free Birth Society. And so I was introduced to Kim's work. I saw her podcast. It's called Orgasmic Enlightenment. And I was like,
Yeah.
I can't listen. I
Yeah,
can't
right,
listen to
right.
those things. That's just way too
Too
much for me.
much.
But then after a while, I was like, I am interested in hearing
Uh-huh.
what this very sailor-mouthed woman has to say
Right,
about all these different orgasms she says are possible and how it changes your life.
right.
And like it's very, she makes grand claims.
Yeah,
And I think for the most part, she delivers on that.
yeah, yeah.
What she does say is that all women are capable of having these deeper vaginal orgasms. And it didn't make any sense to me because I didn't know what a vaginal orgasm was.
Yes, me neither.
Yeah, it was like I thought there was an orgasm,
Yeah,
and that's about how you finish it off, and that's
right.
there
That's all
you
we were
I'm lucky
told.
if I get one.
Right.
And yeah, and just the way that sex is I'm here to make sure he's feeling good. And then if he spends attention on me, I'm just too caught up in my head that I can't relax. I
Relax.
can't surrender. I love that that's kind of the principle of her work is like you have to surrender. And then how that helps us as women tap into our as women when we are in a state of surrender. That does not mean a state of doormatness.
Right,
It
right.
just means that we are able to let go, that is where all the creativity comes.
Hmm.
That's where all this juicy flow comes in life, in how we step into the world, how we live, how we experience. And I think what her I know after I listened to her stuff for like at least a year, and
Hmm.
I begged my husband to take a course. It feels very similar to you, the EMDR and Nick. And he was like, ah, "You're gonna do what you're gonna do anyway." I was like, I know that you don't want me to do this, but I have to. You don't understand. It's gonna change my life,
Hmm.
and I'm happy to say that it has.
Hmm.
But yeah, that as women, we are, it's like we're shut, that whole area, our genitals are
It's shut
shut down.
down. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I wish younger women had access to this, because it needs to be, well, here we are, we're learning. I don't have a daughter, but it's like we can help bring this in. And it doesn't, I once had a friend said, she says, you're a lot like Himanami. You're just kind of like the prim, Tupperware lady version of her. It's just like it doesn't, because that's going to be a turnoff maybe to some people that have had trauma, or they're just not ready to hear Kim's work. She's brilliant, but she does have a definite delivery, and
Right.
yeah,
She's
yeah,
spicy and
she's
she's not
spicy.
apologetic, that's for sure.
No, no, and hats off to her, but yes, it's not going to appeal to
Or
everybody.
pants
But
off,
for,
either
yes,
way.
hands off. But it does need to be heard. It needs to be widespread, and I'm sure
Yeah.
there are other people doing her work in similar ways. But
What was Nick's reaction to you taking VKF?
he loved the girls. They were kind of like our daughters. We were editing this project we all had worked on together, and so he kind of rolled his eyes at it, and he humored me, and he's sure, he just lets me do what I do. And also, I mean, I do have to say, at the time, like, so we went from being a couple to having a child, and that does change the relationship, right?
Hmm.
We really became invested in being parents, and didn't have as much time for us as a couple. And Kim's work, that is really important
Yeah.
and it is like, children need to understand that their parents have sex, or they have time alone together with the doors shut. And so yeah, and I think that when I started taking it, he was kind of more in a depression of having kind of lost his creativity to being a dad and a provider. And so I really was on the journey a bit by my own, and especially in the beginning. But it did, waken things up. So that was really beautiful.
Did you experience, I know for me, I felt a lot of hesitancy and some shame in spending time connecting with myself and doing the practices and the self-exploration because it's basically like I'm gonna go in my room and masturbate. Okay? It's like, excuse me, don't you have more important
Better
things to
things to
do? Like
do.
what? It's called, oh, I'm doing something masturbatory. Like, actually, I am
Right,
self-pleasuring, but I'm connecting deeply and I'm awakening, I'm shifting. Like it is very different than looking at porn on your phone to get a quick one off or
right.
something like that.
Right. No,
It
it's
is not
creating
that.
more creativity
Yeah.
and openness so that you function more expansively in the world. And yes, but me too, because I'm like, I'd rather be doing this with a partner than, but it's important to be doing it with yourself because you need to learn to love all the parts of yourself that I've never even looked at, Like it just was, I was so shamed,
Yeah.
to by a mother, afraid to even show me how to use a tampon. So I didn't, I knew less about my anatomy, and my, until I decided to get pregnant, like at 40. It's like, oh, that's what that, I mean, I learned so much. It
Yes.
just, you're cut off from it if you don't have someone who's open as your elder, as your parent, as your mother, you
That's
know?
true. It's because all our almost all of our parts are on the inside and
Hmm.
guys, they're all on the outside. So they're there and they're doing stuff and they're awake. But ours, I mean, that's why we have to go metaphorically, spiritually inside
Inside.
ourselves
Yeah.
as well as do the exploration and awaken the
The
vagina
numb,
and
yeah, the
can
numbness
strength
because it is so numb, right? From
it is.
trauma and
Right.
not being,
I don't know about you. When I started doing the exercises, I couldn't feel anything that I was trying to manipulate like I had
yeah,
no sense in there except like this is kind of squishy. That's about all I got. Not
exactly.
not pleasurable. It was
No,
just like kind of dead space. To think like, wait, so this I'm supposed to have like feeling in here and sensations, and then you do the
you
practice,
have to do the
you
practice. Yeah.
strengthen that area, and oh my gosh, it's like everything starts to blossom, starts to waken
New
up.
pathways. Yeah.
Oh, it is
Yeah.
so healing.
Because we've culturally been cut off from it, not just your
Yeah.
parents, but just
Yeah.
it's, yeah. So it's just in our collective consciousness. But yes, it's beautiful to be able to expand and feel and grow.
Yeah, yeah. And then as we do that work on ourselves, it changes us and then our partners respond to it.
Recognize. Yeah.
Our men see that and say, "You're more relaxed, you're lighter, you feel more open." Not open like, let's do a threesome, but
Right.
open as in like I'm receptive, I'm not so rigid and
Rigid,
yeah,
controlled, or I know
yeah.
what you're trying to say.
Yeah. So I think all of that is that's why in the work that I do that I think it's so important for women to know what Kim talks about this whole aspect of is this entire massive part of our being that
Hmm.
has been like the spigots turned off.
Yes.
And like we have a lot of brainwashing that needs undone. We need to retrain neural pathways and we need to like train our bodies physically to be able to open up into this because when we're able to experience that bliss with ourselves, we can have it also with our partners and our men. And when we do that, our relationships get even deeper.
Yeah.
We are finally satisfied because, like the experience in the bedroom with my old way of thinking of, so it's good for you, right? Okay, well, that's all that matters. That's
Mhm.
what counts. And I know that's not every woman's story, but I'm going to say it's most of ours.
Hmm.
And because we're not the ones going like, I just want to have 3-hour sex dates with you because I just can't wait. Not if you don't know how to
Huh.
experience all the deeper vaginal orgasms. You're like, I'm bored. This is a
Right.
total waste of time.
Right.
But when you can experience that stuff, then your connection as a couple is, I mean, I know when Brian and I are able to have these sessions together, and we have a commitment of once a week. We have a set time. If we get extra time in during the week, that's great. But we can always count on this one morning of this big block of time for
Mm,
us to experience, connect, go deep, and just have an extravagant session together. And it makes life so much better because I feel blissed out. It's like
yeah.
I've had these cosmic experiences in our lovemaking that I never had before.
Oh,
And I feel him showing up and like I feel nourished in it. And
yeah.
then he's super satisfied and he has yeah, it's just a totally different way of seeing what sex is.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think for most of I I think because of my own trauma, sexual trauma, uh, for me, I was never turned on. So I had to kind of warm up into it. And Nick is a very patient and wonderful lover. So I did have experiences, wonderful experiences when it happened,
Yeah.
but I was never really in the mood. It just didn't, I wasn't just like ready to go, or excited to go, like that didn't happen for me. So it wasn't until this work where that got awakened. So he's sort of like, what? Wait a minute, who are you?
Who
You
is this
know?
vixen in my house? Woo!
Right, right. So it did bring him on board for sure. So yeah, that's been and it's just been beautiful to feel that more creative flow or the Kundalini energy of of our life force flowing through us, right? And we can bring that then into our daily round, which makes life just so much more juicy.
Yeah, yeah. It was during a session, a lovemaking session that it was like thunderous in my mind where it said like this was the time I needed to start a podcast. And
Wow.
finally, I'd been waiting 10 years to start a podcast, had no idea what to do it on. And then all of a
Uh-huh.
sudden it was like, it said, this, you are ready now. Talk
Wow.
about this. It's
Oh,
like,
that's
oh yeah,
beautiful.
how can I not? So yeah, it is so
Oh,
cool. It is so cool.
no, no, it's beautiful. And I think one thing I really loved about Kim too is breathing, like
Oh
the
yeah.
breathing through everything and keeping your eyes open and engaged with each other. Because we
Yeah.
didn't, our eyes would be half shut usually, and we're feeling things, but we're in our own world. And
Right.
to be more connected and yeah, it's been a beautiful experience.
That is such a big thing because when you are looking at each other while you're making love, that is, it's the I see you, I am with you, I see you, I'm with you. And and so much of the time, like you said, like we have our eyes closed and who knows what we're thinking about. Generally, I was thinking about the grocery list or
Right.
something really insulting in that way. Like, how can you be thinking about that right now? Or making
Right.
love. It's like, well, I don't know. I'm just not really engaged. But that eye contact and
Mhm.
the presence makes that real, and it's uncomfortable because we are so vulnerable with each other by looking at each other while making, like doing the most intimate thing that you can do
Yeah.
and regarding each other.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that's powerful.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
ladies, even if that's the one thing that you take away from here, something you can do, a quick exercise, not, you don't have to do it quick,
Doesn't
but
have
I
to
will
be quick,
quickly
yeah.
say one thing is if you, the next time that you guys are going to have some time together, even if you just hold hands or put your hand on his chest, he puts his hand on your chest, and just look at each other
Yeah.
and breathe together. And if you do that for 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, wow. At first, you may giggle and laugh. He may say, this is stupid and dumb. Just say, listen, all I'm asking is for 3 minutes with you. Can we
Yeah.
do this? And
Yeah.
set the timer, whatever, put on some ooey eye music. But that being with each other, it doesn't even have to be like no sexual organs need to be invited into the party. It is simply about coming in to that deeper relationship together. Because
Yeah.
so oftentimes I feel like we live our lives side by side, but not facing each other. And
Yeah, life gets in the way and you have to get through what needs to be done.
yeah, and that's not to say, oh, everybody quit your job and just have sex all day and everything will be peachy. But it is to say that there's so much more that is available to us. And what is really fun is that sex is free, and I love free. So,
Yeah.
mhm. So if you can have like gourmet sex for free, then do it because it's such an
Absolutely.
up leveling. Now, you've done more work in your relationship, and recently you were telling me about
Allison
Allison
Armstrong. Yeah.
and her work. Tell me how you were introduced to it, kind of what the precepts are, what the shift. Tell me the story
Okay.
of, yeah,
how
that.
how I found myself there.
Yes.
My friend Karen, who I adore, she does not have a string of healthy relationships at all, but she finally felt or met a wonderful man, and they were recently married. But they have both been doing Alison Armstrong's work and and deepened their work together, having I don't yeah, they didn't meet through her work, but yeah. And they started a workshop called The Art of Connection, and they were debuting their workshop. And I mean, I've never seen her happier, and she's just, finally in a healthy relationship. And I went to support her work on Valentine's Day, thinking, well, I don't really need this. And we've been married for 31 years. It's just like, we have a great relationship, Nick and I. We've done Kim and Nami's work. We've done energy work. We have a great relationship. But I learned so much that day. It was crazy. And just another aspect of growing, of learning how different we are. I don't think I ever read the Men Are from Mars, Women Are from Venus book, but I knew we were different, but how fundamentally different we think and um, I guess react to things is so very different that their work helped set the precedent of, they said, well, it's based on Alison Armstrong's work. They gave me a great tool to take home that completely shifted our life before I even um, listened to Alison's work, of just the art of communicating, and how women, we said this earlier, we said how women adapt so easily. So we take criticism from our mom or from another woman, and we quickly shift so that we are acceptable, whereas men are just who they are. And so they are um, single focused. Men are single focused. Women are not. We are constantly um, well, it's called the Meadow Report. If you listen to Alison Armstrong's work, we give all the little details because it's in our DNA of when we had to gather and hunt, like the hunter wasn't with you. So you were out gathering berries and you had to make sure these are poisonous and these are the good ones. And oh, there might be a coyote coming. And like we have to be on alert. And we also can't protect ourselves because we are a weaker species, right? It feels safer to have a man. So anyway, I'm delving into way too many tangents. I'm giving you a
I
meta
like it though.
report.
Go for it.
So at any rate, they shared with me this beautiful information. Everybody at the workshop got it, on how to communicate better when you have a request, because women tend to criticize and that shuts men down. So I learned very quickly, and I was called out on it, that I was a frog farmer, which meant I turned my prince into a frog instead of the other
Oh,
way around. Just by Karen's husband being at our home, he could see it very easily. Just the way I spoke to both my husband and my son, not maliciously, but not in a yeah. It just, I was devastated. Here I was a frog farmer, but it all made sense when I started listening to her work. So we, as women, we tend to, men, well, you'd have to listen to Alison Armstrong's work. I would suggest, oh gosh, what is it called? The Development of Men. And then the women one I'll think of in a minute. But I started delving into listening to the work, and just by taking notes and sharing that little bit with my husband about understanding why Nick was so driven when we first together. He was Men basically go through these stages of being a page who is a young boy who wants to be a knight. So pages and knights are kind of the same. They're kind of always on adventure. And then you become a prince, and then eventually you become a king. So men go through these stages in life, and and it doesn't matter how much he loves you. If he's not ready to get married, it's because it really is because he's in this stage of his life where he's trying to build his kingdom, right? I'm sorry, I'm not giving a very
I
good
like it
version
though.
good version of this, but it made me understand my son. It made me understand my husband, and how a lot of times I'm undermined both of them by asking them a question. Men are deep, deep thinkers, and they take their time to respond. And I would then ask them a question and then answer it, and then they didn't answer respond to that, so then I'd give them, well, what about A or B, and then they have to think about that. They're very simple. Men are simple thinkers, and women are very, excuse me, complex. So just learning that completely shifted in how I speak with them now, and much more in appreciation. Like, women respond very well to criticism. If somebody criticizes us, we adapt. If you criticize a man, he just digs in deeper. So, and it just, all of that became very apparent just by learning genetically, because Alison Armstrong, she apparently had a slew of bad relationships and decided, I'm going to just study men for a year and figured this out. And like 20, 25 years later now, she's still at it and teaching all this wonderful information that really allows couples to understand each other more, and then um, commune or speak to each other in different ways that actually are thriving and inviting instead of battling each other. I mean, Nick and I have a great relationship. I didn't think it could get any better, but this has really deepened my relationship to my son and to my husband. And I think also made them appreciate me. In fact, we listened to Developing of Men on our spring break vacation. And I didn't think our son Aiden was listening to it because he had his headphones listening to his music. But he took them out at one point to fall asleep in the back of the car. And so on the way home from our spring break vacation, he said, "Hey, kid, we listen to the one on women now." So he had gleaned a lot, and we did. He didn't have his, he didn't want to listen to his music. He wanted to hear the talk about women, how to understand women and why they are the way they are, and how to better, how he can now glean this information to date women that he's attracted to, or eventually, who he'll be in relationship with. So yeah, it
Give
was
me an
really
example
beautiful.
of something that you would have said that would, because you talked a little bit about your verbal map that you used to do, but it was just too fast for the guys. And but what would be an example that that guy he said, "Oh, you're a frog farmer, I can tell." Like, what was something you had said before, and now
How would you
how
do?
would you say it now?
Well, just an example of yesterday. And I didn't mean this as a criticism, but a lot of times my son like opens the fridge and just stands there and looks at it. And like ever since I was a kid, I was like, you gotta close the fridge because you're wasting electricity. And but he had the fridge open and he was on his phone. So he wasn't even looking in the fridge. He had the fridge open and looking on his phone. And I just kind of made fun of him. But I didn't, was doing it to kind of be sarcastic, silly. Like, do you understand my point? Like, not only should we keep the fridge closed and make our decisions quickly, you're on your phone. You're so attached to your phone right now that you don't even realize you're in front of the. So I said it not in a mean way, but he took offense. And I
Oh,
walked away and I thought, oh, I need to say that a little, I need to reframe that. And Nick's like, yeah, you were kind of mean. I was like, I was? Like, I didn't mean to be mean. And sure enough, I went and saw him and I'm like, I'm sorry. I realize I didn't express myself well. And what I should have said is I get is not well, first of all, men are single focused, so you should be asking them instead of just like, I need to talk now. Ask when is a good time to talk. But it was a good time to talk. So, I should have reframed that and said, I pay all the bills in the house, and I know that it upsets me when the door to the fridge is open and you're just standing there staring off into space. It it wasn't right for me to say what I said about the phone, but you are on your phone a lot. So it would be helpful to me if you didn't have your phone when you went to the fridge to open the fridge. And then he gets it. It's a little he took my apology and he he could say, "Okay, I get it. But yeah, you were making fun of me and you don't like it when I make fun of you." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't." Like he really took it hard and I really didn't think I was making fun of him. I was just trying to be humorous about the point.
Right. Like, hell, let me show you how silly you're being right now. And I
Right,
hate what
right.
you're doing.
But he was upset and angry. I could see it on his face when he left. So it was just like their whole thing is like, and if you well, I'll have to get the card so I can explain it a little better. But it's really about if you can even make it funny. In that case, I didn't make it funny. But if it's something like Karen and Vince were sharing their experience at the workshop of like, honey, I fall in the like I guess her husband leaves the seat up, because or the toilet seat up, and she's fallen in the toilet a few
Yeah.
times. So instead of just coming in and being angry about it, it's like, you know, it would really make me happy if I thought I'm falling in the toilet. It would really make me happy if the toilet seat went down because this is what happens to me. And, so I'm not giving you very good examples, but you kind of get the idea. But they even
Yeah.
explain that even if it's like if you use humor, use an opera voice as you're sharing this experience so everybody can laugh. That you're actually communicating because your partner and yourself, you're in relationship with each other. You're on the same team. And a lot of times we come at each other like thinking they did this to me and they did that and they're not listening. And they're not listening because men are single focused and
Mm,
we tend to not get to the point. We
yes.
give the Meadow report and we're all over the place. And the man's like, so what's the point? Is there something I need to fix or not? And because that's
Right.
in their DNA from, being the gatherer or being the hunter. So yeah, we're both very different and I'm not doing it justice, but it has been a life-changing information that we have a smooth, even smoother household now. So
Oh, that's so beautiful. One thing I want to say as we're wrapping up, we so Heidi and I and our friend Kelly Meehan are on a little sisters chat group thread, a text thread together, and we were checking in with each other, talking about like, so what's your day like? How's it going? And Heidi, you had said that, well, I did some stuff in the garden, and now I've did some mending, and I was sewing on some buttons on the guy's clothes, and in a bit I'm gonna make dinner for my men, and when you said that, everything inside me just went. Aw, I want that kind of life because it's very much Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, which is like so my heart. My daughters and I, we love sitting down and watching. That's like
oh,
that makes our hearts sing. And then I paused and realized, like, wait a minute, I have that life too. And the how often I get dissatisfied thinking that I don't have what I want or what I need. And so oftentimes I don't have the right focus. And if I only saw that actually I have it all. And
mhm.
so I loved the femininity that you brought, that nurturing, that loving, that supporting. You were not carrying, you were
No.
caring and doing those things you do so beautifully and in such it was just blissful. And it made me feel that way. And I loved it was such a reminder to me of take that. You've got that. That's yours. You can have that too. And and I love, so to me, that kind of sisterhood is so encouraging to be able to hear it echoed in each other's stories of this is the life that I'm living. I'm living in this is my stage that I'm at right now. I have a son, I have a husband. I'm supporting them by nourishing them with
Nourishing, yeah.
meals and caring for our home and doing the shopping and this is my domain and my space and the way that I create our household and the environment and the energy, how I hold it, all of that is invaluable. You can't hire that
It's
out.
inval no, you can't
Yeah.
hire that. And that's not for every woman, but that I love to do those things. So that work, I mean, I also support Nick in like administrative things and the bills and all those things too. But that is so, I don't mind doing the laundry. I'm so much happier than sitting behind a desk, which I do have to do too for us. But it balances us so that yeah, I used to not think that was enough. And I did have jobs outside of doing all those things too, and I was exhausted. But
Mm.
now I work for my husband, for his business, but also getting to do those things. I'm just so happy that I get to be home and around everyone and get to nourish and then be protected by both my men. You know,
Hmm.
he's only 16, but he's a man, like that it is yeah, yeah, like we so emasculate our men and they are really single focus and want to protect and cherish us. And that was something else I learned from Karen and Vince's work and Alison Armstrong's work is really they want to be appreciated. Men just want to be appreciated. And the more we appreciate them, the more they give because they do. It's in them to just protect and cherish. And so we as women have to, yeah, not criticize, even though women criticize each other, right? But so that's what we're used to get what we want. Well, you should do it this way, or like just little undermining things instead of letting them come to their own decisions.
I think we do not realize the strength of our words or our
Mhm.
eye rolls or our demeanor towards our guys that it cuts them to the quick.
Yeah,
And then we wonder why they withdraw, or why they're just hanging out with the guys all the time because they they don't feel safe in
right,
relationship with us.
right. Or want to be vulnerable.
Yeah,
So
exactly. They
yeah,
don't, it's not safe to open up to you because
right.
if I show you my soft side, if I tell you my truth, you're gonna criticize it. And that to them is saying that you are dirt. And
Yeah,
they don't, and they're like, well, guys should just toughen up. I hear that from women. It's like, wow, you don't understand. You don't
yeah.
understand how different. It's like guys telling women, like, hey, it's only 18 miles, toughen up in the rain, up a hill, and it's 28 degrees. Then it wouldn't be rain. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's like, hey, we need to have grace for each other that
Yes.
and be grateful that we are different, that we're not all the same, doing the same things. So the beauty that they can give us, the beauty we can give to them. Thank you so much, Heidi, for having this beautiful conversation about everything about womanhood.
Everything.
Really, it's about womanhood and being where we are in life of, married women with children and trying to continue to grow and be aware of where am I at right now? And I really love your dedication to where am I currently being in victimhood? And to me, I I I will be asking myself that more because I recognize that even in small things, I jokingly am critical.
Mm,
And it's because I feel poorly about myself. And
mm,
I was just telling my daughter that yesterday. It's like, I want to be less critical and I want to be more, I just want to live in more love for myself and for the kids. Like, I want to stop calling my dog a name. Like, get out of the way, doofus. Like, maybe I don't have to do
mm.
that anymore. I mean, it's
Yeah,
small
yeah,
things, but
yeah, yeah.
that's the spirit of us. Are we brave enough to be softer.
Mm.
And I don't know, that's what these kinds of conversations to me is it helps support me on my journey. And I'm grateful that thank you for having that with me.
Oh, I so enjoyed it. Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah. Before you go, if this episode spoke to you, I would love to stay connected with you in a deeper way. You can head to wholewomanawakening.com and join my email list. And I'll send you a free little gift with some simple, free, or inexpensive ways to care for yourself and come back to who you are. And if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed here so you don't miss what's coming next. All right, I'll meet you back here soon. Thanks for joining me.